Hello everyone, my name is Maria Contreras. Today we have an important discussion because we will address several interesting topics and share our thoughts on them.
You're right. Hi, my name is Laura Saucedo. Today we will talk about artificial intelligence and education. We'll also discuss important terms such as mass media, social change, digital culture, and so on.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Murgas. We will also compare an English speaking country with our country, Colombia.
Well, it is important to know that according to Chen and Chen, artificial intelligence refers to a machine ability to reason, solve problems, and adapt to its environment in a manner similar to that and of a human being. In other words, AI can analyze information, reach conclusions, produce results, and learn from new data.
It's also essential to mention that, according to Bartnick, AI is the ability of a machine or computer system to simulate a perform task that would normally require human intelligence, such as logical reasoning, learning, and problem solving. This is evident when a person asks AI for directions to a location, a task that requires interpretation.
Similarly, AI offers numerous benefits across various fields, such as education, business, science, the environment, and agriculture. For example, according to K-Track, one of the benefits it offers is that thanks to advanced systems, AI is capable of answering questions and performing tasks based on the user's needs.
Before we start talking about artificial intelligence and education, it's necessary to understand a few case concepts. Do you have any key concept in mind?
Sure. The first key concept is mass media. According to Haralambos, the mass media refers to the methods and organization through which social groups communicate messages to a broad and diverse audience. Furthermore, globalization plays an important role because it creates an interconnected world that facilitates the exchange of customs, ideologies, and lifestyles. Have you heard this term before?
I'd had heard of this term before because the mass media can also be used for entertainment and advertising. Television, social media, and digital media are clear examples of this. These channels play a key role in shaping the way people, especially students, understand the world around them.
I had heard of this term too, and it's interesting to see how mass communication has evolved. After all, our grandparents and parents used to rely on newspaper to stay informed about what was happening in the world. Now, we get our news from social media.
Mass media also plays an important role in education because I remember watching programs like Discovery or National Geographic on TV when I was younger. However, students today can learn through educational videos they find on social media platforms like TikTok.
The other key concept is closely related to what we just discussed. Digital culture is another key concept. Digital culture describes how technology and the internet are transforming human interaction. It also influences the way we behave, think, and communicate in society. Today's students are immersed in digital culture. They learn, socialize, and shape their identity largely through digital spaces. Were you familiar with this concept?
I think it is something we are constantly in touch with because we are always using our cell phones to share videos and photos, post updates, watch someone's live streams, or even communicate with someone who isn't in our city or country.
In the school setting, I believe that understanding digital culture is important because it prepares teachers to innovate in the classroom using technology. Of course, we must take the context into account, as many schools lack the necessary technological resource. However, teachers can still teach students how to search for and evaluate information from social media.
What you said, Laura, is closely related to this author. According to Sunstein, it is important for citizens to be able to develop, understand, and engage with new media in order to stay informed about what is happening in the world. However, citizens must be aware that fake news exists. This can be implemented in the classrooms so that teachers can foster critical thinking and reflection in students. Additionally, so that they realize that misinformation is present in the news and information.
And the last concept is social change. Do you know what social change is?
To be honest, when I used to hear that term, I thought of the protest people held to demand change, whether in education, the environment, and so on, or to demand their right. But now I know that social change helps people understand why new ideas appear and why society evolves.
I believe that human beings are constantly developing new tools, facing new problems, and creating solutions to those problems. For example, since we are in the digital age, the rise of technology and the internet is significant because it allows us to communicate with people on other continents.
You're right. It's worth mentioning social change as an important concept. According to the Hyper document, social change refers to the transformation of society's culture, economic, and institutional structure over time. Technology has been one of the most powerful drivers of social change in recent decades, especially in the field of education. For example, implementing in technology in education allow for the creation of spaces for meaningful experiences, fostering collaboration and adapting activities to students' learning styles.
Now, let's compare the use of artificial intelligence in education in the United States and Colombia.
In the United States, artificial intelligence is increasingly integrated into schools and universities. Students generally have greater access to digital resources and educational technologies. Many institutions use AI powered tools for personalized learning, automated feedback, and even administrative tasks. This reflects a low context communication culture, where direct and structured information is valued in educational settings.
In Colombia, the situation is different. Through also involving AI is growing in education, but access is not always equal. Some universities and private schools have adopted digital tools effectively, while main public institutions still face limitations in connectivity and device availability. This reflects a broad challenge. Technological advancement does not always react all communities at the same pace.
That said, Colombian students are increasingly resourceful. Many use free AI tools independently to support their learning for language practice, research, or writing assistance. The question is not only about access, but also about how critically students engage with these tools. As Bartnick notes, the ethical use of AI requires understanding its limitation, not just its capabilities.
Another important distinction is communication style. Colombia is generally considered a high context culture. Relationships, emotions, and and shared understanding play an important role in how people communicate. In classrooms, this often means students rely heavily on teacher guidance and peer interaction. In contrast, the United States has a low context culture, tends to favor direct explicit communication, which aligns more with naturally with the structure that's based format that many AI tools use.
This cultural difference also influences identity construction. In both countries, young people use social media and digital platforms to explore and express who they are. However, the cultural values that shape those identities differ. In Colombia, collectively identity, family, and regional pride remains strong even in digital spaces. In the United States, individual expressions and personal branding tend to be more prominent.
Despite this difference, both countries share a common challenge: misinformation. Digital media makes it easy to access information, but not all of it is reliable. Students in both contents need to develop critical thinking skills to evaluate source, question assumptions, and use AI tools responsibly. Likewise, I was recently reading an article about whether artificial intelligence can replace teachers. Do you think AI can replace teachers in the classroom?
We believe artificial intelligence should support education, but not replace teachers. As Chen and Chen point out, AI can simulate human reasoning, but it cannot replace the human capacity of empathy, motivation, and ethical judgment. Teachers continue to play an irreplaceable role in guiding students through complex ideas and helping them grow as critical thinkers.
In conclusion, artificial intelligence is transforming education around the world, offering new opportunities but also raising important questions about equality, critical thinking, and cultural identity. Therefore, artificial intelligence should not be separate from education, as it is a tool that helps tailor learning activities to student needs.
The media and digital culture influence communication styles, identity formation, and learning experiences, and understanding this influence is essential for future educators. As cultural understanding can be fostered in the classroom by helping students realize that the classroom is a world full of people who think differently and come from diverse backgrounds. That is why it's important to foster empathy and respect for other students.
Comparing Colombia and the United States has given us a better understanding of how cultural context influences the way technology is adopted and used in education. In other words, we must consider the resources schools have available to carry out activities that require technology. It is time to answer the questions for the end of the semester reflection. Here is my first question. What was the most important concept you learned during the semester in Cultura y Civilización Inglesa?
For me, the most important concept was intercultural communication. Before this course, I thought communication was mostly about languages, but I learned that culture shapes the way we express ideas, emotions, and relationships, understanding that Colombian operates as a high context culture where meaning often goes beyond words, helping ref- reflect on how I interact with others and how I will communicate in my future teaching practice.
I would say digital culture was the concept that impacted me the most. I use technology every day, but I have never stopped to think about how deeply it shapes the way I think, learn, and connect with others. Realizing that digital spaces are not neutral, that they reflect and reinforce cultural values was a turning point for me.
For me, it was the relationship between mass media and social change. I learned that the media does not just reflect reality, it actively constructs it. The way information is presented in different countries reveals a great deal about their values and priorities. That was something I had not fully considered before.
The second question is: how has your understanding of cultural and identity changed?
It has changed a lot. I used to think of culture as something, let's say, fixed: food, music, and traditions. Now I understand it as something dynamic, constructed through language, media, and daily interactions. Identity, in the same way, is not something we simply have. It is something we continuously build, especially in digital environments.
My understanding has become more critical. I now question the cultural assumption behind the content I consume. When I see a movie, a social media post, or a new news article, I ask myself, what values are being promoted here? Whose perspective is centered? That kind of question was not natural to me before this course.
I feel the same. This course helped me see that my own identity as a Colombian woman is shaped by my cultural forces, some of which I had taken for granted. Understanding those forces gives me more agency over how I present myself and how I relate to people from different backgrounds.
We were talking about digital culture, and I would like to ask you, how does digital culture influence your life and educational experience?
It's influenced almost everything. I use digital tools to study, communicate, create, and even relax. But now I am more aware of the risks, particularly misinformation and the way algorithms shape what we see and believe. I try to be more intentional about the information I consume and share.
For me, digital culture has made learning more accessible, but also more distracting. I can find information on almost any topic within seconds, but I also have to compete with constant notifications and entertainment. The challenge is developing the discipline to use technology as a tool for learning, not just for consumption.
I think digital culture has also made me more a global learner. Through digital platforms, I have been exposed to perspective, debates, and ideas from around the world. That exposure has broadened my view of education and made me more curious about how other cultures approach learning.
What intercultural challenges do you identify in today's globalized world?
One major challenge is navigating cultural misunderstanding. As the world becomes more connected, we interact more frequently with people from different backgrounds. But more interaction does not automatically mean more understanding. Without cultural awareness, communication can easily lead to conflict or bias.
I also think inequality is a serious intercultural challenge. Globalization has not benefited everything equal. Some communities have greater access to technology, education, and economic opportunities than others. This creates a kind of digital divide and affect not only development but also cultural representations in global conversations.
And there is a challenge of cultural homogenization. As digital media spreads content from dominant cultures, particularly from the United States, local cultures can sometimes be overshadowed. Maintaining cultural diversity in a globalized world requires conscious effort, both at an individual and institutional level.
And the last question, how can you apply the knowledge from this course in your future teaching practice?
I will apply it by being a more culturally sensitive teacher. I want my students to understand that languages and culture are inseparable, and that learning English also means engaging with different worldviews. I will try to create a classroom environment where cultural differences are explored with respect and curiosity.
I plan to use digital tools critically in my teaching practice, not just as a convenience, but as a way to teach students about media literacy, intercultural communication, and responsible technology use. I want my students to be thoughtful consumers and creators of digital content.
For me, this course reinforced that education is never neutral. Every choice we make as teachers, the tests we select, the technologies we use, the perspective we center, reflect cultural values. I want to be a teacher who makes this choice consciously, always asking whose voice are included and whose are not.
Well, we have concluded this debate, which is important for us as future teachers.
We also discuss topics that teachers should know, such as the role of artificial intelligence and new technologies in education in a globalized world.
Well, okay, bye. Thank you for listening.